Welcome back to Great Northwest Weaponry. This is Thomas, and today we are doing some rifle stock repairs. And I'm going to show you my complete process with at least one of these, if not both of them, if doable. I need to identify what exactly is wrong with the rifle on top here. And this one on top is one that we have seen in a First Shots short. This is the Belgian Mouser model 1889/36. And you can see here there's some damage on the fore end of the stock. This is a laminate stock, and it seems that the lamination has popped there. And I may need to simply glue it together, may need to do some more extensive repairs. I need to take this apart completely and find out. So we will definitely do that at the end of the video. And if it is a repair that we're able to do with the tools that we have with us today, then I will also show my process for repairing this one. But for the one on the bottom, this one we haven't seen at all. This is a InvestArms Bridger Hawin rifle. It's a 50 caliber black powder percussion rifle made by the Italian company InvestArms. And this is one that was actually built by my uncle and used as a hunting rifle for many years. And I very much want to do some deer hunting, elk hunting with black powder rifles. Now, the damage to this one is pretty straightforward, and I know exactly how we're going to fix this. There is a crack running from this screw up to about there. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take the gun completely apart and then drill little holes straight down through the top there and drop some toothpicks in with wood glue. Now, real quickly, let's go over our tools for this project. We have the aforementioned drill and a drill bit small enough that it will, with these toothpicks here, leave a hole just slightly smaller than the toothpick. We'll be coating the toothpicks in wood glue, dropping them in, clamping the drilled spots on the gun, and I do have some small blocks of wood so that we don't damage the finish on the rifle. And then that is about all that should be needed for the repairs to that gun. We also have the aforementioned wood glue and a screwdriver to take out any screws in the rifle. We are going to start with the Bridger Hawin rifle, as I know that that process will be doable over the course of this one video, and then we will end with at least diagnosing the problem with the Belgian Mouser. So I'm going to go ahead and clear all this stuff out, and we're going to go to a tabletop view and get started on taking apart the Bridger Hawin. I went ahead and removed the sling off screen, as not everybody's example of one of these is going to have a handmade buckskin sling. But first thing that we're going to want to do here is just go ahead and pull out your cleaning rod. It's pretty straightforward. You just, pull until it is all the way out. Now, the first major thing that we're going to remove is the barrel, and that comes out with this pin here. So this end we're trying to push out, and I can usually do this by hand by simply pushing on this side, and it did work that time. Let's see if I have the, no, don't quite have the tension to do that by hand, so I just pop that out a little bit with our screwdriver there, and boom. Now the rifle, actually need to cock our hammer there, just levers out. Now I can see that some kind of a repair was done here already, and this is where the crack is. So we're going to drill tiny holes straight down right there. And in the case of this rifle, I don't know that we really need to do any other takedown. We can go ahead and drop our hammer, but the damaged area is fully exposed, and we want it to be tight all the way through there. So in order to clamp this, I'm actually going to need to have the hammer cocked, because when we clamp it, we're going to be putting a block of wood right about there. Now it is time for toothpicks, wood glue, just using Tight Bond Original here, and a drill. This should all be pretty straightforward. We just want to make sure that we don't break through. Now the crack starts right there, and we want to put a hole here and a hole here. and then drop the 2 pins in. Okay, that's one hole. Now this next one we need to go a little deeper, so we want to make sure that this is oriented nice and straight. I want this kind of as far back as we can here. It's trying to drag off the side and crunch in here. Now, this is all inside where the barrel goes, so when we drop the toothpick in, we can smooth that out a bit. If only this wasn't all semi-disintegrating as I attempted to work on it. This is getting a little nasty in here. We lost a little chunk there. And you can see, again, there's this, some sort of an epoxy that was used in here in the previous repair, and this is crumbling as I work. So okay, we're deep enough that we should be all the way through the crack there. Losing a lot of little chunks. Again, you can see this is just, it's brittle, falling apart, possibly rotted. Hard to say exactly what the damage is, but we do have a hole here and a hole here to drop our toothpicks into. So let's go ahead and check this out. So the crack runs along right here. Toothpick all the way in. That is how far in it goes, and that is far longer than the length of the crack. And then on this spot goes into there. Crack runs to right there. So this should work. Now I am going to somewhat liberally apply wood glue to this. I can work it down into the hole as needed. That ought to be enough. Keep it rotating so it doesn't drip off. And work it down into the hole that we created. I'm going to go ahead and get some kind of a paper towel to sop up the excess. Actually, I have some of these long Q-tips here. Just don't want a huge mess when we're done with this. And once this dries, we will cut the toothpicks. Should only take an hour or so to set, enough for us to do that. Go ahead and get a little bit of that extra off. Okay, now toothpick number 2. Once again with the wood glue down into the hole. Maybe fill out a little bit of the internal damage. So I'm going to go ahead and just use this this Q-tip. And just kind of smear it in there. Now, again, not a especially pretty repair, but it will, for this rifle, function. We have a clamp and a couple of small wood blocks here. I go ahead and just put these one on either side of where I'm intending to clamp. And that should be all we need. Now we're going to go ahead and set this aside to dry for at least an hour before we clip the ends off of these toothpicks, and then leave it for the remainder of the night. In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and take a look at that Belgian Mouser. All of the damage to this gun is around the front end here, and it is cracked on both sides. This crack, I can probably do the trick with the pins again, and it'll actually be hidden on this one by the handguard, which is nice. This side, I'm not 100% sure. I can see that someone put a nail in right there, and it looks like it split past where that nail was put in. So first thing we're gonna do is take off the sling, take off the top handguard, and take off the nose cap. So we've got our screwdriver. Let's see if this is right size of screw or right size of bit here. It appears to be. I wanna try and make sure not to damage the screw. Okay. Now, the handguard can come off. Simply slides forward and off. And you can see, as I'd mentioned, this is laminated, and it appears that the lamination has popped. So that we're probably going to glue and clamp. That might fix a lot of this problem. If this is completely loose, then you can actually see right here, this might have been a duffel cut job. Hard to say. There's a definitive cut right there. Go ahead and fully remove this sling, and I don't want to damage this, as the sling does seem to be original. I'm trying to be somewhat delicate with that. And this piece needs to come out just to get this out of the way. Okay, there we go. Go ahead and reinsert that so that I don't forget what direction it goes in. Next order of business is getting the entire receiver off of the gun, and this could require a few steps, so bear with me. We'll start with the nose cap. And simply pull this. Oh, was able to do it by hand. So there we go. That is a goofy screw. It is only threaded that first little bit there. So set that aside. Now, I have never actually taken off this nose cap. It is very unique in appearance. And it is actually relatively straightforward. That is definitely odd. I'm gonna go ahead and remove the bolt. Oh, that's right. It's odd on these Belgian Mousers. It's about the same as the Argentine Mouser, actually. The next thing we need to do is pull these screws out of the bottom so that we can remove the magazine. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the barrel and receiver should just, oh, there we go. Just pop right out with the trigger group. So set all of this stuff aside and then get in looking close at what is wrong with this stock exactly. Now, this does appear to have been cut in two places. One right there and one right there, through different layers of the lamination too, as this all slides out. Now, that end is a bit gnarly, and you can see where they didn't cut very cleanly there. This wood is rather punky, and I definitely want to be more careful with this. I'm going to remove that pin that someone drove into this, and this one as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get some pliers and attempt to pull those out. These needle nose should do the trick, at least for this longer one here. There we go. Now this next one, this whole area is delicate. Once I glue this all back together, and it looks like this was glued originally and had since being cut, been pried free of the glue, which is not ideal. I don't want to do further damage here, so I'm trying to be, somewhat delicate with this. This is not set deep. It does not even poke through the back. looks like it did at one point. But there's not a lot for me to grab there. This isn't impeding fixing this, so I may just leave it, as I really don't want to further damage this. But I think what we're gonna do, so this end here mates to that spot there. This end mates to that spot. So what we want to do is put going this direction on both sides toothpicks. They're going to be our fix-all for this entire process, but we don't want to damage this stock. This is already been through enough, and it does fit in. And then honestly, just some glue on the inside here where it was originally laminated, and then clamping this down should do the remainder of what we need it to do. So again, we want this repair to be not especially visible, but functional. And in order to be functional, we need to get this as close together as we can and flush on the top. Again, clamping this could be kind of difficult. I'm going to put a clamp across there just to keep this from falling apart once we do this. But this is going to be a multi-step process, so we're going to fast forward through a lot of it. I do see how this is going to work. And we're going to need to mark both sides on the inside and then cut short a couple pieces of toothpick. We don't need to use full pieces, but that can be done easily enough with our needle nose here. So something about like that. We want a hole that covers about half the length on either side of this in a couple of spots. So we're going to do 2 here, 2 on the inside where that meets up, and then same on this side. I don't particularly like this, but I'm going to be as gentle as I can. I do not want to break anything further. Okay, that's one hole. Two holes. Go ahead and verify that these actually sit in far enough that they'll do any good. I think this one here needs to be a little deeper. There we go. And I need to find exactly where that meets with this. And these are going to be cut even a little shorter. But I need to mark spots on the insides of there. So I'm going to do this with a pen real quick, and then we'll get back in and drill 2 small holes on that inside chunk there. Okay, they don't really show up very well on camera. You can kind of see the one marked with a pencil, not a pen, spot there, and another one over here. And we're going to go ahead and make little holes in this. And this part is stressful. I very much, again, don't want to damage this, and this is some very, very punky wood here. My lighting is bad. I can't see super well where I'm aiming for. Okay, right there is where we need the first one. I'm going to actually off-center that a little bit because I want it to go into only wood. Don't want any more damage to this than is necessary. Okay, that's one hole. It's right there. That was probably the most stressful part of this whole project. Success. The next part of this process, equally stressful, will be to put a pair of holes in this spot here and this spot here. We want these to mate up so that this piece will lock back in where it should, and we do not want to interfere with, you can see in here and really prominently here, the channel where the cleaning rod goes. I'm going to make these relatively shallow as I, again, just really don't want to damage this. On either side of that channel there. Okay. Perfect. This lip is very nearly too narrow. We may scar the inside a little. That isn't a problem. I don't want it to burst out the backside. That is the major concern here. Again, it doesn't have to be deep. It just has to be enough. That should be enough for it to anchor a bit there. And on the other side. And a similar scenario. That gives a spot for the holes put there to match up. I'm going to go ahead and cut a couple more toothpicks so we can see if it actually mates up as well as I'm hoping it does. It looks like it does. I think we might be in the clear here. And then I'm going to take a few minutes to breathe because that was stressful. This type of work is very stressful. Once again, success. I have now glued our toothpicks into the fore end of the piece that we're trying to attach. I am going to leave this to dry for about an hour, and then we'll get back into it and try and put this whole thing back together again. We're going to need multiple clamps for the Belgian Mouser, so let's go ahead and put the Bridger Hawin back together. Appear to be firm. Go ahead and snip them off. Not the smoothest cuts in the world here. Sorry, I got that a little bit off camera, but we can get some better snipping tools later and really get in there and get that cut down low. And when we do the demo of this rifle, of which we will do in the future, we'll get a little bit more into that. But again, this simply levers into place. The repair does not seem to have impeded that at all. And bada boom. One repair, a success. Now for the really hard part. We got to get glue on all four of these and then finesse them into the holes in here, but we also need some glue in this track. We want to get some on this front end where these broken bits are, and then clamp the whole thing down. And we're going to clamp it from at least two directions here. So guess there's no time like the present. I'm going to go ahead and do the glue in the track first, as that is the least dangerous part, I guess. And we don't want to overdo it on the glue in here, as it could seep through these cracks to the outside. We also don't want to accidentally fill the channel for the cleaning rod. Now, this rifle's cleaning rod is absent, but should we ever get one, we want to be able to use it. All right, I'm going to say that that is plenty. We need to get that to stay stable. Now, glue on these
pieces of toothpick. This whole process is stressful enough it's actually making me shake. And I've got a spare piece of toothpick to try and fish these into place as we slide this on. And we're just gonna have to just do it. Okay, everything is sliding into place. We're gonna need to put quite a bit of pressure on this end to get this in. We're gonna put a clamp across the top and a clamp around the sides to get these broken pieces on the side to stay. One clamp set. Everything seems to be matched up as good as it can possibly be. There we go. There's Frankenstein's monster for you. I am leaving this for a while. May finish this video tomorrow as we take the clamps off and reassemble this rifle. Okay, it has been a full 24 hours. Time to check the fruits of my labor. Everything seems attached. The loose parts are more or less glued down. Seems firm. I do think I'm going to work a little bit of glue down into that crack and into that crack where the actual cuts are, the blade width, and leave that for another hour, and then we'll go and put the rifle back together. I'm going to use this little toothpick piece here to work the glue in, as again, we don't want to just completely slop it on there. Okay, we're going to leave that for an hour or so, and then flip it over and do the other side. Finally, all done with this one. Now, you can't see the glue very well, and there's actually a trick that I used in this crack here and this crack here. There's a little trick. So, one of these old milsurps, they have some, 100-plus-year-old crud that you can kind of scrape free and gather on the end of your toothpicks here and just smear it along wherever you have your wood glue, and it'll more or less color match the wood glue to the remainder of the gun, so it won't stand out as much. Now, let's go ahead and put Humpty together again. At long last, it is finished. There you have it, folks. Some minor stock repairs. This took me less than a day of actual work to do. Most of the time spent was simply waiting.
So this is something that you can definitely do on your own time if you have the tools available, of which really the only thing that you need is a drill and then just patience. On the Hawin rifle, I did get some finer clippers to clip this down flush. It is still a visible repair, but this one being, a non-milsurp, it's not something that bothers me. As far as on the actual milsurp, the Belgian Mouser, I was able to, in my opinion, do a pretty good job of doing the repair while concealing it so it is not readily visible, and everything seems far more firm. I'm not hearing any crunching, nothing is shifting when I grip onto the end of the gun here. So we will be doing a full-length demo of the Belgian Mouser in the very near future. We'll also be doing a full demo of the Bridger Hawin rifle. Always got lots in the pipeline, and this is by far our longest video, so before I ramble any further, I'm going to go ahead and cut it here. This has been Thomas with Great Northwest Weaponry, and I'll see you all next time.